When I work with students on literature, I sometimes hear one of two narrow perspectives on what the purpose of literary criticism is. Some are under the impression that there is one correct answer to the question of what a text means, and our job as students of literature is to decode the author's intended message. And then on the other end of the spectrum, some say that since art is subjective, any interpretation is just as good as any other. English class is really just an exercise in reading too much into things. I would offer an alternative to both of these assumptions. It's true. There's no such thing as right or wrong, but there is such a thing as more or less supported. Your interpretation of a work is persuasive only if you can find ample support for it within the text. So, for example, you could try to make this argument. Shakespeare's play Macbeth encourages us to seek personal gain no matter the cost to others. Again, you can make this argument. I'm certainly not going to stop you. The problem you're going to run into is that it's difficult to support because most of the actual text of the play contradicts it. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are the poster children for unbridled ambition, and things turn out pretty poorly for them. They don't keep their personal gains for very long, and even when they're on the throne, they're constantly racked with paranoia and/or guilt. So, as an endorsement of Machiavellianism, Macbeth is pretty unconvincing. This interpretation is about as close to wrong as you can get. However, not all interpretations are as easy to evaluate. Here's another one. Macbeth is a play about the value of retributive violence. Macbeth does a lot of terrible things and kills a lot of people and is undoubtedly a tyrant. And the only thing that stops him is Macduff's violent act of revenge, after which the rightful heir assumes the throne. Therefore, this play extols the virtue of justified violence. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Right off the bat, this is clearly a stronger interpretation. It has a lot more textual support. Alternatively, you could also say Macbeth is a play about the endlessly cyclical nature of violence. So much of the play, particularly Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's speeches, is concerned with the spiritual stain of violence, of blood that can never be washed away. One of the most iconic lines in the play is, "Blood will have blood," implying that once you start down the path of violence, it can be difficult to turn back. Now, you might say that this only applies to unjust murder, but there are signs that it may not be so simple. If we do a bit of close reading, we find an eerie echo in the play's final scene. There's this triple hail. Hail is spoken 3 times in quick succession, heralding Malcolm as the new King of Scotland. Who else has a penchant for saying hail 3 times? The 3 witches, whose prophecy kicks off the bloody saga of Macbeth. Some scholars take this as a hint that the cycle of violence may in fact be restarting, even though the motivations were more noble in this case. So, here we have 2 interpretations that are pretty well supported. You can definitely make a strong case for either of them, and I'm not sure that either is definitively better than the other. So, as we can see, art is not a science. But that doesn't mean we have no way of evaluating and making sense of texts. And if a play asks more questions than it answers, if we still ultimately find ourselves confused about what it all means, so be it. Really great works of literature like Macbeth are great precisely because they stand up to multiple readings. Even after hundreds of years, they can still make us toss and turn at night.